Hey guys, welcome to another video cast on how I shot this, and I'm so excited to be able to be speaking with Dylan from the Kitcheners. We cover so many cool topics and go into detail about how he shoots his work, how he approaches it all, as well as the editing and all this good stuff. Without further ado, remember when you hear this sound, it means we're showing something on the screen, and otherwise, let's get right into it. Dylan, thank you so much for being here. It's such a pleasure to be able to speak to you, and you're one of the most iconic people in our industry, and you're often loved by everyone, and especially our followers who keep asking about you and your work and how you got into this whole thing. So I'd love it if you could just tell us a little bit about you and your story and how you got into wedding photography and filmmaking. And
Yeah,
yeah,
no, absolutely. And it's fantastic. Thanks for having me on, and it's really nice to chat to you. And yeah, so I
sure.
grew up in Tasmania, in Australia, which is that little kind of upside down triangle island at the bottom of Australia. And so I grew up there, and then moved to Queensland when I was in my early 20s. I finished college, and I started an apprenticeship as a pastry chef and baker. So I did that for a few years. I completed my traineeship and ended up managing a bakery on the Gold Coast. Basically, I was still a young guy, and I felt like I was missing some sort of creative outlet. And one day I went out and just actually someone in the bakery at work said, "Well, why don't you try photography and see how that goes?" And so I went out and bought I remember it was a Nikon D780. That was my first ever camera.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was the first ever, no, sorry, not the D780, the D80. It was the first camera to do video, I think. It's like 720p video. Or maybe that was the D90, I can't remember. And so I started doing, on my days off, I would go and do, street photography, and that was kind of what kind of became a hobby. And so on my weekends, I'd go to I'd drive to Brisbane and do kind of just kind of roam the streets for a couple of days. And what I was trying to do is trying to find nice like interesting compositions in the street, and kind of basically stand there across the road or whatever. Or in a dark alleyway or whatever, kind of just waiting for that kind of perfect kind of person to walk into the frame, and then kind of going home and growing up, and at that stage I was already really into like movies. I really love movies, and so I was going home and kind of trying to give my street photography a bit of a like a cinematic kind of edge to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's playing around a lot in Photoshop and Lightroom, and learning all about grading and editing, and doing that. So I did that for a few years, and I joined Flickr. That was kind of a big game changer for me back in the day. This is back in like 2005 or six, I think. So Flickr was a big thing back then. For those that don't know, it was kind of like a photo sharing kind of platform,
Mm-hmm.
like Instagram is today. And started getting really active in there, and joined lots of communities and groups on there, and started learning a lot more about photography, and and editing, and street photography, and basically that's where I also met Joanna as well. So she was at that time, she was really active on Flickr as well, and she, like me, she was doing a lot of travel photography and self portraiture and street photography, and I really loved her work, and we started chatting. And at that time, she was living in Bali. She was a Japanese language teacher, and she was teaching in a school there. So she was kind of close to Australia, and after like kind of like a few months, or I think it was even a year of chatting, she came to Queensland, and we met.
That's
And
crazy. So you met through
yeah,
Flickr, and so not like the
yeah,
current days Tinder. Like back in the day, Flickr
yeah.
was the dating app for photography.
Yeah, it was actually. Yeah, it really was. Well, that's single photographers. That's where you kind of hang out back then. They even had like a relationship status kind of little thing you can tick, and you can put
Oh,
single or
really?
taken or whatever. So that was, a really good way to meet kind of other creative people. And so yeah, we met, and she came to Australia, and everything was really great, and we just really hit it off, and basically things moved really quickly from there, and she stayed with me in Australia, and because of basically how we ended up in Scotland is because of visa reasons. It's just easier for us to kind of move over here and start our life in the UK, rather
Mm-hmm.
than kind of stay in Australia, just in terms of paperwork and all this sort of stuff. But because I've got Scottish ancestry,
I was going to ask
grandparents.
about that. Like, are you British in some way? Like, it was what made it easier to get to Scotland? Was it? Do you have like a
Yeah,
British passport?
yeah, I can do. I'm eligible and I'm going through the process at the moment. But yeah, I've got settled status now. So through my grandparents, I could do that. So
Oh, awesome.
so it was much easier for us to kind of come over to Scotland and start our life. And so basically after we met in Australia, it all happened very quickly. I proposed after about 3 months, so it didn't take long.
Wow.
And then I think like a few months later after that, we moved to Scotland. And basically, when we got here, I was working as a pastry chef for when we first got here, and Joanna was teaching Japanese. But we thought it would just be really cool if we could use our kind of what we'd learned in photography and street photography and portraiture and kind of be able to make a living off that. So back then, I think it was 2011 or 2010, 2011. It was the whole wedding photography industry was still kind of, obviously wasn't as developed as it is today. It's still kind of in its infancy a little bit. So back then, there was no workshops, presets, website templates. There's none of this kind of stuff existed back then. So we kind of jumped into wedding photography in 2011, and for us, it was a very kind of very slow process. Obviously, we're both working, full time as well, and I was doing night shifts in the bakery in Edinburgh, and on the during the day photographing. So it was an intense kind of a couple of years, like this, and so it was a challenging time in the beginning. So we're kind of learning as we're going,
Hmm.
and we didn't really have all the proper gear at that stage, and so we're kind of just using what we had. But somehow, we just made it work, and we just decided like after kind of photographing our first wedding, that we just loved it, and we just really wanted to make it work, and and make this our living, our
And
job.
you found that you work really well with each other, like, because I mean, there's always that question comes up when people find out like a couple are working together that they might get in each other's way or they might try and kill each other because they do things differently. Did you find with Joanna that you were just in sync right from the beginning and you knew what you needed to do and you kind of complemented each other?
Yeah, I think no, definitely not the beginning. None of us knew what we were doing in the beginning. Either of us, we were both kind of just finding our way, and kind of, yeah, both of us were just learning as we went. So, but after, definitely, as you probably know, after a year or two or three, you just kind of get in this rhythm with each other, and what the other person's doing, without even having to say anything to each other. You just it's a nice thing to shoot as a duo
And
in
it's a
good
nice
hands.
experience to have someone there to kind of share these moments with, you might see a beautiful
Yeah,
moment with a couple and you can turn to your partner and kind of shed a tear with them, or
yeah,
you could deal with tricky situations and talk about it afterwards. There's so much
yeah,
benefit to doing wedding
yeah.
photography with your partner, and yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, and also traveling as well, and going places with somebody is nice too. I must admit, because obviously things have changed for us in the last few years since we've had kids. So Joanna these days, she does a lot more of the kind of editing and colouring and a lot of that kind of stuff at home now. At the
Hmm.
moment, anyway, we've had to adapt a little bit and change things. But I miss those days. To be honest, where we travel together and see all these cool places and get to experience everything together. So hopefully, she gets to kind of
Would
jump
you
back
bring
in.
your kids along for some wedding projects? Like not necessarily to the actual wedding, but like would you ever travel with
Yeah.
them to some shoots and things?
Uh, I think maybe when they get older.
Hmm.
What we did in the beginning when we first had Bruno back in 2017. He was our first boy. We had, we did travel quite a lot actually, all around. We went to Morocco and France and Italy and different places with Bruno, and we brought Joanna's mum with us. So
Oh,
kind of
cool.
like while we were photographing the wedding day, he would be with his grandma. So that was really that worked pretty well actually. But and this year we're doing that as well. We're taking both boys with us to a couple of different places. So, but yeah, it's nice to be able to experience with the kids and take
Sure.
them, to different places. So,
That must be a good
um,
experience for Joanna's mom to get to travel all around
yeah,
these amazing
yeah,
places and looking after her grandkids.
yeah. She's not complaining. Yeah, she loves it.
Oh,
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. So, but yeah, so that's basically our story.
And you really got into filmmaking as well. Like it seems like you're also doing, besides photography, your filmmaking is, we're going to touch on that a bit later, but it's completely out of this world. I think this
Oh, thank you.
industry has never expected the work that you're putting out. And so you often just break Instagram when you post something.
Oh,
So
thanks.
how long have you been doing filmmaking then? Like, was this something you always did on the side with your photography, but never really gave it much emphasis because photography was the one that was generating and
Yeah.
then,
To be honest, like with the filmmaking, I didn't really. I don't know why. I just didn't think about. I always just did photography, and I just thought I'm a photographer, and that's it.
mm,
I thought I didn't really explore it for many years, and basically, I think it was like 2018. I kind of I got to a stage where I wanted to, and it's just something new to learn. Basically, that was my need for starting video. So it was nice to be able to, start from scratch again.
mm,
And obviously I had a bit of knowledge about light and composition already that I've learned from photography, but just be able to start from scratch with it's a totally different approach with video to shooting weddings and stories. It's you got to use a different part of your brain for
mm,
something. So I can't. I've tried doing both at once, but I really can't. It's
that's
not
it.
possible. Do you guys do video too?
Oh, we do a little bit of video
Yeah,
from
yeah,
here and there. We do small little highlight films, and we're now introducing like longer feature films, part of the thing as well. And
yeah,
you're right in
yeah.
saying it does use a different part of your brain. Like a lot of things, photography and videography share in common, such as composition and lighting and things. But where
Mm,
video really stands out, obviously, is the movement, is the fact that you're recording a time, a period. Like a photo is an instant moment; it's frozen
yeah,
in time, so it doesn't move. With video,
yeah.
you got to also think about what happens during the 3 seconds or 10 seconds or 5 seconds of that clip. Is the
Exactly.
bride moving in a certain way to a certain point? Whereas with a photo, you can just kind of let that story tell itself in its instant frame. And so with
Yeah,
video, you got to really think about that. It's not just like photography where you see this moment and you film it, because there's a lot more that happens in that. So yeah, it's
yeah,
fascinating to see that, and it's so cool how they can both work hand in hand with each other.
yeah,
The
yeah,
experience you get as a photographer, you can definitely apply to filmmaking. But as you said, it's a whole different ballpark in a lot of ways, and it's exciting
yeah,
to learn something new. Um,
yeah. Definitely,
so,
definitely. Yeah. No, I'm glad I did it. It's it's nice to be able to do both and offer both. And yeah.
and now, when you're shooting weddings, now is Johanna doing a lot of the photography and you're doing the videography? Is that how you split it up,
No.
or do you do a bit of both?
So at the moment, it's me. I'm doing the photo and video, but I'm just doing
Okay,
it on separate days. So,
I see.
yeah. So I don't really do wedding videography. I just mostly do kind of pre-wedding kind of couple stories.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm basically doing. So I'll do. Usually, what happens is I photograph the couple's elopement day, and then either the day before or the day after. Um, you know, just kind of make a video with them. Yeah. So, and I do like I did it recently. I did, Fran and Dave.
That
But
was
that,
just goosebump inducing. That
oh, thanks.
one you did
Yeah.
with Brandon Day was wow. I mean, if no one's seen that already, I'll link to it in the show notes below. But it's just
Oh,
incredible.
thanks. Yeah. Yeah. So with those guys, so that was actually my first kind of proper elopement. We shot over 2 days actually. So we did one day where it was just their proper elopement day. And then another day kind of getting some extra stuff,
Sure.
you know.
And now,
So
when you go to these, I mean, perhaps it's the same with your photos as well. Are you going there with a sort of preconceived idea about what you want to shoot, or are you kind of just going there on the spot and kind of being inspired by what you see and how the couple react? Or do you have a sort of, I know I want to do this with this couple. I have these cool locations. I want the story to kind of follow this, because the work that you're putting out is so strong and emotional. It's hard to kind of fathom that this just happens organically. I'm sure that you've got these beautiful ideas in your mind, perhaps inspired by the couple themselves and their story, and
yeah,
then translating them to reality is
Yeah.
also a challenge in and of itself. So how are you approaching these projects, kind of preconceived and having these ideas, or is it purely on the spot, being inspired
No.
and going with the flow?
Yeah, so it's a mixture of both. So I definitely put a bit of thought into each video, and I like to find out a lot about the couple first. What their kind of hobbies and interests are, and do they like to read poetry to each other, or do they like to take photos, or do they like to dance or sing, or do they have a dog or a pet that they like to play with, or just or an instrument they like to play. I just try and find out as much as I can about the couple and try and incorporate those kind of things that they enjoy doing together into the movie. And definitely, I think a lot about different locations and different different scenes. But also allowing for spontaneous things to happen. Things that you can't plan. Which often is sometimes the best stuff. I reckon.
Mm.
That's you can plan all you like, but you never know what it's going to be like on the day you shoot. Maybe the light's different to how you imagined, or the weather's different, or maybe So kind of being able to kind of adapt to as well, and kind of I think is a good thing to do as well. So it's a mixture of both
Mm.
planning and also being adapting to new situations.
That's very
Um,
cool. Yeah,
yeah,
you got to be
yeah,
flexible in that sense. You can, it kind of brings out things to be a bit more authentic. If they're on the spot and they're having these emotions, you got to kind of adapt to it.
yeah,
I guess you're not necessarily making a Hollywood film with a script where everyone has to repeat the same thing over and over again until they get it right. And Hollywood does an amazing job of portraying emotions, but I mean, this is a proper
yeah,
team behind this, and there's paid actors
yeah,
and
yeah,
actresses.
exactly, yeah,
These are real
yeah, yeah,
people, real couples that have their
exactly,
feelings. They're
yeah,
excited, they're nervous, and some
yeah,
things you can't really do twice. If they're
exactly, yeah,
reading out their vows to each other and they get emotional, asking them to do that again, it's never going to be the same as the first time.
exactly, exactly,
That's
yeah,
so yeah,
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 yeah. At the end of the day, the real people, real feelings. Yeah, you're right. What you say. So it's about also giving the couple a good experience too. So
for
I
sure.
don't want to turn their wedding day or whatever into a something that feels like a production or not very authentic. It's a matter of kind of balancing both. I
Mm.
guess is giving them an authentic, fun experience, but also creating something really nice as well.
I mean, it's so cool because also the demand for videos from wedding couples and even couples in general has increased significantly since there's been so much amazing talent out there putting out great videos, and it's really cool to see
Yeah,
that people are open to this other medium and having a different way to remember their day or their moment together. And when you tell such an amazing story like you did with Brad and Dave, is just something that's unforgettable, and I think they will cherish for many, many, many years to come. And there's
yeah, yeah,
photos do speak 1,000 words, but there's something to be said about videos when you can actually capture audio, when you can capture movement, when you can capture
yeah.
feelings in a
I,
different way. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
I think music has a lot to do with it too, with video.
Mm-hmm.
I think I spent a lot of time trying to um, find, just music that makes you feel something.
Mm.
I think
That's
that's
the
very
hardest
important.
part. It's
Yeah,
finding music. My
that's the
God.
hard part. That's the time consuming part. I reckon I spent countless hours on, music bed
And it's
and
frustrating when you
oh
find a
man.
song that is almost right and it goes into some
Yeah,
death
yeah,
metal halfway
yeah,
through. It's like, oh
yeah, yeah,
no,
yeah.
why would you do this?
Exactly. Yeah, yeah,
I know that feeling. I mean, are you also
yeah.
inspired by the music that you find? Like, do you find that if you find a piece of music, you can kind of build a film a little bit following the flow of the music as well?
Definitely, yeah. And when I'm looking for music, and usually, when it comes to the video, I try and find the music either before I shoot or before I edit,
Mm-hmm.
to kind of, the music can kind of dictate how the story goes a little bit, and the
Mm.
kind of the speed and the feeling and so if you find a song that has a bit of a build up,
Mm.
like kind of a climatic ending, that can kind of dictate how your video unfolds the story, or
Correct.
so I try and find music that, it takes you on a bit of a, like a roller coaster ride, I guess,
Mm.
for the movie. Yeah, so that's what I'm basically looking for.
Yeah, and there's a million and one places to find music, but the sort
Yeah,
of vast amount of music to choose from is also tiresome. I mean, we use music bed and things like that, and I
yeah,
think I know the entire catalog, and
yeah,
suddenly I find something new and
yeah,
unique, and it's great. But other times I'll spend, I would say, the majority of the time looking for music versus editing. I think once you have the
yeah,
music and the sound effects
yeah,
and things already, and you're excited about it, then the clips start making sense, and then it can go
yeah.
by
It
quite a
all
lot
just comes
faster.
together. Yeah,
Yeah, and you
exactly.
feel very
Yeah,
productive, like, damn, I got this section done, or you found the climax and you built the climax part, and then you're gonna do the introduction of the part. No, that's
yeah, yeah, yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah, but yeah, I enjoy doing the movies and
Now, Dylan, you guys on Instagram, is you have quite a significant following, which is not surprising, but you also seem to be a little bit more on the quieter time. You guys don't do reels, you don't post every single day. You're a lot more, I want to say, relaxed with Instagram, but whenever you post something, it goes viral. It goes, whether it's the video making or it's photos that you've done, it just blows up, and it completely, I want to say, blindsides everyone's theory about Instagram algorithms saying, oh, well, you need to post every day, you need to do reels, otherwise no one's going to see your work, which, you're living proof that it's not exactly true. If you post high quality content, people are going to see that. Instagram is going to notice how fast people are
yeah.
liking and saving this thing, and then it's going to get spread around. I mean, can you tell us a little bit about that? Like, are you doing this consciously, or is this kind of, you're just not really into Instagram and it just, you
Um,
post when you have something really worth showing?
yeah, basically, I don't think there are any rules with Instagram. I think you can do whatever just works best for you. I try not to pay attention to the algorithm stuff and the reels and stuff, and some people that works really well for them and that suits their lifestyle and their personality, but it doesn't really suit me or Joanna. So we to be honest, we don't really show much of our private life on there, and yeah, and we have been a bit quiet over the last few years, and basically, it's just the simplest explanation is just it's just having kids for us anyway.
Yeah.
If we were very very active from like kind of like 2015 to 2000 end of 2016 before we had Bruno. And then basically from 2017 to now, we've just stepped back a little bit from social media and just and I think just finding time to do all this stuff. It's Instagram, unfortunately, it gets that's the last thing. That's our last priority at the moment, basically,
Mm.
with kids, and that'll probably change maybe as they get older and we start maybe being more active and have more time to do all this kind of online stuff. But for us at the moment, it's fine. Just every now and then we kind of pop up and post
And break the
something that we
internet.
well, we try and post something that when we are trying to select something for Instagram, we want to show something that's a little bit different and a little bit basically emotional. I
Mm.
think that's what at the end of the day, that's what gets engagement, and that's what people are interested in
Mm.
is emotion. They want to feel something. And so that's basically what we're looking for when we post something is
Mm.
that kind of emotional moment or or something that makes you feel something. So
And it's something really quite special to make, let's say, strangers or just Instagram viewers feel that emotion in photos. There was someone who once said something like, you could take a photo of a crying mother with her son, and it's emotional and it's people like it, but a lot of times it's just a picture to someone else. Whereas the real story behind that photo could be that the mother was unfortunately terminally ill, and there's so much
yeah,
more to that photo. So to you as a photographer, and obviously to the couple, that photo means the world and it's super
yeah,
special. But that can kind of blind you when you're posting it and then wonder why it's not getting so many likes, because the photo itself
yeah,
is, it means a lot to you, but it doesn't mean much to anyone else, because
yeah,
it's a good
yeah,
photo. It's a crying
yeah,
mom, woohoo, whatnot. But
yeah, yeah, yeah,
if you can successfully pose a photo that people can feel that emotion, and I think that's also largely your skill set, is your photos that you take, they exude emotion. You don't need to know the couple to feel this connection that they have with each other, and I think that's something that a lot of us kind of overlook the importance of, on how to capture that. And so yeah, that's where I think having these emotional photos that are not just emotional to you as a photographer or to the clients, which obviously are the most important things,
Mm.
but to make them emotional to the people viewing them who are strangers. And you can do
Mm.
that maybe a little bit easier through videos because you've got the tools
Yeah.
of music and sound and
Yeah.
audio and
Exactly.
vowels and things to play with. But with
Yeah.
photos, it's static. But that's
Yeah.
where I think you really do shine. I mean, every one of those photos, and we're going to speak about them a little bit later as well. I know the one when Nina, when she has this tear running down her eye when Derek was playing his guitar or
Yeah.
reading his files. It's
Guitar.
just
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that photo in and of itself is a movie. Like there's so much to be said there, and I
Yeah.
think that's what really separates your work from, I want to say, a lot of everyone else's, ourselves included. Like
Yeah.
there's
No,
really a
thank you.
skill
Yeah.
set there.
Yeah, it's good that with Instagram too, you can post a series of images too that
Mm,
kind of tells a story a bit more, goes a bit deeper into the story sometimes, and give it more context, I suppose. That's what that's what these kind of emotional moments is what Joanna and I have both naturally always just been drawn to.
mm.
From the beginning, that's just we're both pretty emotional people, and that's what we're always got our eye out for on the wedding day, is the waiting for these things to happen and trying to capture it in a way that does the moment, justice.
Yeah, that
So
makes sense.
um,
Would you say this has now become your sort of unique style, is these emotional sort of storytelling images and videos?
yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I mean, the style thing, like with our style, it just kind of slowly evolved over the years. So in the very early days, way back when, we didn't know what we were doing. We didn't have big tools to do, back in the early days, and we didn't. And then the most important thing, and I think is we didn't. As you photograph more and you do more and more weddings and you're more and more kind of different situations and scenarios and adapting to different situations, you start to learn how to use light better. And I think
Mm,
that's the main kind of driving factor that determine our style and determines many other people's style is how they use light and how they see it. So that's something you kind of have to train yourself to do and be very aware of. So we've always been focused on storytelling. Movies are a big kind of inspiration for us. So, we wanted to always, from the very beginning, we wanted to make our wedding days, even though um, it's a wedding day, it's a live event. It's not a
mm-hmm.
it's not a movie set, but as much as possible, we want to use the tools and the knowledge we have to kind of turn this wedding day into be able to tell a story in a way that feels like it's a movie, and the bride or the couple, the two main characters, and everybody else around them is as well. So
Yeah.
um,
I mean, the cool
yeah,
thing with stories, or like a general concept with stories, you've got a beginning, a middle, and an end. And with a wedding day, like commonly, it's the beginning would be the getting ready, the middle will be the
yeah,
ceremony and the reception, and the end would be like the dancing and the party and things like that.
exactly,
So
yeah, yeah,
how would you find like telling a story of a wedding day that kind of is unique to them? Because most weddings have that same sort of flow. What do you guys do differently that would make this story be a lot more unique to that couple? Are you focusing a lot more on sort of B-roll as well, not just for films but for photos? Like, are you photographing also the details and then piecing those together? Because even if they may seem insignificant, they do build up a story. If you're looking at a blog post or the experience the
mm,
couple has when they're going through their photos for the first time and they get to relive those
mm,
moments. So how important would you say going for those B-roll shots, and
mm,
besides, the main first kiss, which, everyone captures, and the first
yeah,
dance and the couple shoot, those
yeah.
things adding to the storytelling, would you say that they're just as important?
I think what I kind of think is that wedding photographers, they obviously we want to capture the moments,
Hmm.
things that happen, document that. But I think what we've tried to do anyway is try and capture how things feel on the day as well,
Hmm.
and to do that, we're trying to basically paint the whole picture, the whole picture of the story, give it context, where's it happening, what was the weather like? What's the light like? Little details of the environment. So things like we always make an effort to capture just a lot of details. Like how the light was shining through the window, or shadows being cast on the wall, you know, water on a leaf in the morning to show that it was
Mm-hmm.
raining that morning or the night before, or little kind of details that, when put together with the main story, you know, obviously by themselves they don't mean much, but they when they're put together with the story, it gives the whole thing more context and more, you know, it fills in all the gaps and creates a more fuller picture of the wedding day. So, and
Yeah.
you know, and captures a bit of the feeling as well. So,
Yeah,
that's
and
what we're yeah.
you could also do that. Like I think I've seen in your work as well, like how you introduce your couples, even in your photo stories. It's not often that you see just immediately the first picture of the bride is going to be her standing there in a nice portrait. Like you often get the details of her dress, maybe her hand, or just little things. So you're kind of creating this mystery before you get to
Yeah,
see the main characters. And I think that's something that really draws people in because I mean, unless it's a very different sort of extravagant wedding, you can start with a couple right there, bam, center, and then go from there. But
yeah,
I love how it's sort of like a gentle introduction, and maybe you're shooting from outside, and you have the bride in the window, and it's just a sort of faint picture of her, and
yeah,
the
yeah,
viewer is taken on this journey into meeting her, and then meeting
yeah.
her future
Exactly. Yeah,
husband, and those emotions into it.
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
fascinating
Exactly. Yeah.
when you with your photos and your videos as well. How important would you say emphasis is on editing, like when it comes to the colors, and how much do you think color really portrays into the feelings that you have with an image and video? Do you think it's really something that is should be focused on, or is it something that kind of can be done pretty quickly once you know what you're after?
I guess when it comes to colors and tones and all that, you know, when shooting, especially when shooting video, try to kind of nail the colors as much as I can. You know, when I'm shooting, you know, I'm just being very conscious and aware of uh, different objects in the scene or in the
Hmm.
background. You know, maybe it's the preparations in the morning in the room, and there's maybe in the background there's a bright pink, you know, whatever,
Yeah, it
you know,
happens.
yeah, something, you know. So, you know, when I'm taking a photo, you know, I'm just very, you know, I just try and nail as much as possible this kind of stuff, as I can when actually shooting, just because it makes life easier when you're editing later.
Mm,
So just definitely I pay a lot of attention to color these days in photos and video. So and during grading as well and post production, that's a long process for me as well.
mm,
So whenever I grade or edit an image, try and I look at an image and I think, what can I do to make this image, to fully enhance this and bring out the
mm.
full potential of this image. So so when I'm editing, obviously you put your preset on, or and then I'll just kind of do what I can to kind of whatever I can do to kind of guide the viewer's eye to what is most important in the
Mm.
image. And usually that's can be controlled with your exposure, or doing a lot of dodging and burning, and kind of making some areas a bit darker, and then
Mm.
maybe brightening up some areas slightly, just so the eye kind of naturally gets drawn to this certain part of
Definitely.
the image. So
Yeah.
so a lot of work goes into it's never just a case of just putting a preset on and changing the white balance a bit and next photo.
Yeah.
It's a lot of kind of thought goes into each image.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Now, I mean, you've also got like a unique set of, I want to say, colors and tones that you have with your style, and you do have these amazing presets called emotive presets, which I've seen people using them, and it looks incredible. And like I really, really love the sort of feeling, the cinematic feeling you're getting from it. Like they're not always particularly warm, which I find very refreshing. Like I like that you also embrace a little bit of the cooler tones with your editing in these presets, because it also
yeah.
kind of makes things feel, I want to say, a bit more cozy. Like right now, the industry is kind of, I want to say, full with those warm orange tones everywhere. And, they look great. They totally do. I mean,
Mm,
everyone looks like that. But I think there's something to be said about going a little bit cooler, and it just makes things feel a little bit more dramatic. And I think that really adds into the emotion.
mm.
And so, yeah, I believe your emotive presets do that. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about how you build those presets, and what people who buy them should be looking out for. Because I think
Yeah.
people also get frustrated when using presets simply because they don't really know how to use them. Like as someone who
Mm,
who makes presets as well, when I make them and I use them, I have in my mind, I'm looking
Yeah.
for a certain tones. I'm looking at this skin to be
Yeah.
like this and that. So
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
me, they're very easy to use. But I totally understand someone who's coming from a different approach, getting a little
Yeah.
bit
Yeah.
frustrated with them, going, "Oh, I'm not trying to get
Yeah.
them." So I think
Yeah.
there's something to be said about when you're editing with these presets. You need to be looking out for this. And so, is that the same
Mm.
case for these emotive presets? Are
Oh,
you,
of course. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Absolutely. I don't think I've ever used a preset where you just click and then it goes on and that's it.
mm-hmm.
There's always a bit of tinkering and tweaking that you need to do, especially if you want to give your own kind of edge and your own kind of take on the preset and kind of customize it to how you want it to look. But definitely, when using, emotive presets, basically there's one color and one black and white, and that's for the last, few years, that's what we've used for everything, basically, every situation, every wedding. So, but, depending on what time of the year you're shooting, or how the light was, you're going to have to change things. Like, for
For sure.
instance, in Scotland, it's very green in summer. It's very, you go to the Highlands and it's like fluorescent green. It's bright green. So you put the preset on, and maybe perhaps you might have to desaturate the green and the yellow channels a little bit, or maybe it's so there's always something you can do to change it a bit. So yeah.
Now, when you were shooting, actually speaking about presets as well, do you also have in the back of your mind, because obviously you know how your presets work and where they're strong and where they may be needing a little bit more tweaking. So, are you trying to find spots with your couples where it's going to be a little bit easier to work with your presets? Like, for example, you might not have them standing underneath a magenta light bulb, because you know that you've tweaked the magentas to a point where they might not look as
Mm.
great in that specific preset. So do you find that,
Um,
yeah,
Not to be honest, not really. To be honest, when I'm shooting photos, I'm never thinking about what can I do to kind of make my presets look better. I'm just shooting, just how I see light, basically. That's the preset thing is the last thing. That's I'm in the moment thinking about the light. What looks good to my eye when looking through the viewfinder. So, and then later on, getting things to how I want it to look or feel, that comes later, with the preset. If I have to make adjustments later to kind of match, how I want the image to look, I can adjust that with the preset and change the, hue, saturation, or luminance, and play around with that a little bit, or the split toning. Sometimes what I might do is tone down the split toning a little bit, in the highlight saturation and or the shadow saturation, or I might make the shadows a bit greener or a bit more warmer, or that's usually the things I'm kind of changing in post to get it to how I want it to look. Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
I'd love to talk to you a little bit about some of the work that you've shared on HIST already, and maybe we can dive into exactly a bit more details on how it is. I know you've shared so much on the platform about it, but just being able to talk about it and question a few things is
Yeah.
also pretty interesting. So the shot that I have up here at the moment is the couple, the two guys when they're holding each other in probably one of the most deepest hugs I think I've ever seen in a photo. And the guy is with his long hairs blowing in the wind, like it's totally Scotland with that
Yeah.
cloudy sky in the background. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about the shot. I believe that you had them standing on a little rock or a platform to
Yeah.
give them that higher vantage point. Like, did you know immediately that you wanted to have them at this and have that sky in the background?
No, it kind of. I mean, that's the thing. That's the sort of thing I like about, obviously, as I said, like for wedding day, I always scout my locations, so I know where I want to take the couple. And I find like a couple of nice compositions in the environment, but shots like this, it just kind of happened. You just kind of. I didn't know. In the morning I think it was pretty. It wasn't windy and cloudy in the morning. It was a pretty nice day, and things just deteriorated as the day went on, and. So So you obviously have to adapt to what you're working with. So it was a very quick session, I think, because it was supposed to start really, or it did start heavily raining shortly after.
Oh no.
But but yeah, we just saw this. We're down at the beach and near the rocks, kind of a rocky area, and we just kind of, just I put them in this position, because it was a nice composition. If I was, because I was kind of kneeling down here and shooting up, and if you kind of stood normally and shot like horizontally, you'd see the mountains behind them and a bit of a composition. But so I just noticed, they were standing up there, and I was taking the kind of main shots with the wide shots, with the whole environment, and then I kind of just noticed it looked really kind of epic, like
Mm.
when they were standing up there together, and the wind was blowing his hair, and I thought, oh, it looks really nice, and so I just thought, oh, I'll try something different. I just kind of just went down, and I just thought it'd be nice to kind of make them feel like, you know,
Like they're
uh,
towering.
yeah, they're towering up into the sky, and
Yeah.
and the wind's blowing the hair. It's very dramatic, and and you've got this beautiful kind of sky behind them, and
And
yeah, that was kind of how it happened. Yeah.
And I think, with the sort of simplicity of the sky being a background, there's not much for your eye to kind of
Nah,
wonder, be distracted by. And it goes
yeah,
straight to this couple. And the way they're holding each
yeah,
other, this is what I was speaking about earlier, is the emotion, the way that his head is cocked back and his eyes are closed. And the guy who's in front with his back towards us, his eyes are closed and he's looking down. You can see this is a hug that means something to them. It
yeah,
seems
yeah,
like it's not a hug that they're doing just for a photo. This is a moment, even the way the blonde guy's hand is kind of showing the sort of, I don't think they're muscles in his hand, but
yeah,
you can see that he's
yeah,
gripping hard
yeah.
and that he's
I,
really cuddling his partner here, and
I
this I
think,
think is
yeah.
amazing.
I think yes, because it was so bloody cold as well. I was
Well,
just kind of keeping each other warm, and also it was windy as hell. So I think
yeah.
they just didn't want to fall, so they're holding on to each other tight. So I think that had something to do with
I
it,
mean, it
maybe.
works wonders for sure. I mean, that
Yeah,
comes out just stunningly, and so, yeah. I mean,
yeah.
did you when you're with your couple like this, are you kind of speaking to them a lot, or are you talking to them and guiding them? Say, okay, guys, now hold your hand like this, and that's great. Or are you giving them more the space? And now, there's no right or wrong answer to that question. There's
Yeah.
different ways to go about it. Some photographers literally let their couple do their thing completely by themselves. Others are a little
Mm.
bit more active and kind of gently guiding them and giving them ideas. So,
Yeah.
would you say that you're more into that field where you speak to them a little bit more and kind of guide them
Mm.
gently?
Yeah. Like uh, one thing you do when you start doing many weddings, you start to be able to adapt to different couples. I think that's important, is being able to know sometimes when you need to step in and direct a little bit more,
Mm-hmm.
and to kind of get the shots you're looking for, and sometimes when to step back a bit and let the couple just do their thing. Sometimes you don't have to say much, and if you
Mm.
do say something, you're going to ruin the moment or what they're doing, and so it's just being able to look through your viewfinder and see what's happening and be very aware of what they're doing, and just know when it might be nice just to give a bit of a prompt, or or change the pose, or something, and yeah, just being able to adapt to each couple. So so it's a mixture. Sometimes I'm talking a lot, and saying a lot, and usually when I'm doing these shoots, um, I'm pretty energetic, I guess. I'm not. I don't know. I get very kind of in the moment when I'm doing portrait shoots. I get very in this kind of weird zone where
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on around me. I just lose track of everything, and I'm in looking through my camera, and that's all I see, and I'm very kind of I get excited,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and I have to sometimes slow myself down, and just to kind of just take it easy, because I get a bit too excited sometimes. So I think a lot of people think maybe I'm very kind of mellow and
Mm-hmm.
very soft and direct, but it's not like that at all. Actually, it's pretty. I'm running around like a pretty crazily, and really just kind of excited and giving the couple a lot of feedback, really positive feedback,
Mm.
and just always letting them know what they're doing is looks fantastic,
Mm-hmm. That's
and
definitely important.
yeah,
Have
yeah.
you been in front of the camera with Joanna before? Like, have you been photographed before?
Uh, we don't really photograph each other. Uh, yeah, we're funny. We're a weird couple. We don't we take lots of photos of the kids, but we don't really photograph each other too. We did when we, you know, in the early days when we first met each other, and we're actually back then, back in the Flickr days. That's what we were basically both doing. Is a lot of the kind of self-portraiture stuff.
Oh, cool.
You know, and so we're taking a lot of photos of each other. But it's just the last few years we just haven't, especially since having kids, we just haven't
But you
had
haven't
a
been in
need.
front of like as a couple in front of someone else's
Oh,
camera.
as a right, okay. No, never.
It's worth doing. Like it's definitely like you
Yeah,
get
I
the
know.
feeling of like I mean for us we're totally awkward in the beginning because you know we're not used to being photographed. But what we
Yeah,
do find is that it really helps you understand what the couple feels. And so as
yeah,
you said, you
yeah,
know, saying those positive words and encouraging them makes all the difference. You know, when a photographer is telling us, "Hey, Melly and Shane, you guys are doing great. You're looking beautiful. Oh
yeah,
wow, that shot is the money shot." You know, you as the couple feel good. You feel more
yeah, yeah,
confident, and you know maybe a little bit
yeah.
more brave to try something different. And you know,
Exactly.
so
Yeah,
I 100% agree with
yeah,
you when you're saying you know even if you're energetic, the shots are coming out more dramatic. But that energy and that sort
yeah,
of excitement goes to the
yeah.
couple that allows them to
That's
feel
it. Yeah.
confident and trust you and believe everything. And so that's very very
Ex-
important.
exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and now this other shot here. So I'll quickly jump over to Nina,
Yeah.
the one where she's I would say one of your most iconic photos you've taken. I think I've seen it everywhere. It's the one with her running with her dress in and amongst the mountains, and it's an incredible dress and it's an incredible moment that you
Yeah.
captured there. Perhaps you could tell us a little bit about them. I know Nina and Derek are two incredibly talented photographers. We have a
Yeah.
couple of their photos on our platform, and they're just as nice as you
Yeah.
would imagine.
Yeah.
But it's so cool that you got to photograph their elopement. And this
Yeah.
photo of
Yeah.
Nina's just wow. Like, I can't imagine
Yeah.
anyone not
Oh,
saying
thanks.
wow when they
Yeah.
see it.
Yeah. No, it's just it's just a matter of all the obviously Nina and Derek are as I said, they're an amazing couple, very talented, and you know they're totally on the same page creatively, and you know they and so it's really a pleasure shooting them and you know and hanging out with them. It's really amazing to be able to capture their story. So, but uh, so yeah, it was a matter of all the things just coming together at once. I suppose all the composition, lights, wind, movement. It was all. It's just one of those shots where all these different elements came together to create something kind of special. And obviously the dress looks amazing too,
Mm.
glowing and very dramatic. It's an incredible dress. But yeah, so that was it. So basically, that's Glencoe, and that's the and just that's where they had this ceremony, and this was just shortly after the ceremony, and the sun was kind of going down, and the light was getting nicer, and so we just kind of knocked off a few quick portraits there before we left to go to another spot, and it's just really just kind of placed her in the middle and this
Were you
composition.
actively looking for like that composition? Because I mean,
Yeah,
compositionally, this picture is very, very strong amongst with other things. You've got the mountains in the background, which also the descending lines create these, you know, what they call leading
yeah,
lines to
yeah, of
to
course,
to the subject.
yeah,
So was that intentional, or like, I mean, it's pretty.
yeah,
I want to say when you see mountain ranges to kind of have the couple in there.
yeah,
But was that something you saw originally, and you're like, no, okay, I really want it to be in the middle of this valley because the composition is going to be really really great
yeah,
because the lines are there and she's framed within. I also noticed how
yeah,
you haven't really cut her head off with the mountains in the background. That's something
yeah,
that happens from
yeah,
time to time, but it's
yeah,
she's
yeah, yeah,
framed within the earth, if I can put it that way. And I
yeah,
think
yeah, yeah, yeah,
that makes
yeah,
a
exactly.
difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it can make it, just the perspective you shoot at, whether it's like this or kind of up, it can make a big difference,
Hmm.
with the result of the shot. And usually, what I do in situations like this is, I'm not just taking one perspective. I've got my composition, but then I'm kind of taking different, you know, trying some with the head above the horizon, below the horizon,
Mm.
just seeing. And then when it gets to, you know, editing later and culling the photos, I can kind of pick, decide what looks best later because sometimes, you don't notice in the moment. You have to sit down later and actually sit and realize, oh, actually that looks a little bit better, or I'll
Hmm.
pick that one. But
That's right. I mean, that's the joy with digital photography is, it's not
yeah,
like film where you really have a limited amount that you can take and you have to be a lot more systematic with your photos. You know,
yeah,
if your
yeah,
camera can, if you've got a 200 gigabyte card and that's empty, why not fill it up? And, the
yeah,
benefit is with going through culling, you can not only find these gems, but you can also find out what worked and what didn't. And you might realize,
exactly, yeah,
shooting way too low down there from like my knee height really didn't do anything
yeah,
great.
yeah,
Even,
yeah,
and it's a
yeah,
good thing that you tried, that you learn from this,
yeah, yeah,
because that's why I
exactly.
say, like, there's no real mistakes you can do in photography. A lot of it is
No,
is learning experience, and
yeah,
learning
you,
what went wrong is
yeah,
so important.
it is really important, and that's something that you do. It doesn't stop. It doesn't matter how many weddings you do, whether it's 10 or 500. You every single wedding, you're learning something new. Whether it's about posing, perspective, light, composition. I don't know. It was always something you're taking away from
Yeah,
every wedding. So, and
absolutely.
being being aware of that and conscious of it is important too. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Now, when you direct her, I believe that you just asked her to move or to walk or run even back and forth.
Yeah.
Now, when you're directing her, are you kind of giving her even more ideas to do with like holding the dress, or is it more simple, like, okay, Nina, I want you to move from here to there, or run and try and bounce, and just kind of do that a couple times, or are you a little bit more uh, trying to get this shot that you have in your mind?
Yeah, yeah, I definitely have a shot in mind. I definitely wanted to, because of the dress was the way it was, constructed.
Mm,
I wanted to get the movement, and and so yeah, I think I just asked her just to kind of move it around a little bit and do some different things, and I just knocked off a whole bunch of frames, and there's a few different variations, and just kind of
mm.
pick the best one. But if I could actually go back to this moment and do it again, there's always things I think as a photographer you definitely you look at a thing and you think, why didn't I do that, or I wish I could
Yeah,
go back
yeah.
and do that again. And what I would probably do now if I was to go back is kind of maybe even get a little bit closer with a wider lens,
Mm-hmm.
and have her move the dress around, and just kind of get that kind of that perspective, with the lens, the lens with the dress much more closer to the lens,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of get that, it kind of when you use a wider lens, it kind of it accentuates movement more.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'll probably go back and do, now, because I've kind of started shooting a lot wider these days as well. It's come from videography actually.
Sure.
I use wider lenses now, so
And what
um,
sort of lens are you using
I
predominantly
mean,
now?
well, I'm using the at the moment. I mean, I'm still shooting 35-85 for
Mm-hmm.
weddings, but I'm starting to use a lot more now the 24 millimeter,
Okay.
and I'm thinking of even going even wider this year. So even wider than that. So just again, it's just it's just to try something new and different,
Mm.
and kind of open up different possibilities, and get a different type of photo. So I think
Yeah.
that's
It's cool
another
that you
thing.
said
Yeah,
24 because some photographers, ourselves included, we have a 24 that has gathered so
yeah.
much dust, like
Oh, really?
it barely
Yeah,
gets used, and it's such a shame. And then there's other photographers that we know that swear by the 24. They take
yeah,
24 over a 35 any day, every day, and it's.
yeah,
I totally see how it can be a versatile lens. You have a little bit of a risk with the distortions being a little
that's
bit
right.
more prominent, especially around
Yeah,
the edges because of it being so wide. Like where a
yeah,
35 is, loved by everyone, is the distortions are not so bad. Like the 35-50, they're
yeah,
pretty close in
yeah.
their range, so it's kind of
Exactly.
very safe lenses.
Safe
Um,
lens. Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah,
yeah, so
yeah,
I think being brave and using the 24, and I think it can create really powerful images. And as you've just said, going back to this moment and maybe being a bit closer would emphasize that dress as well a little bit more, and the scene
yeah.
and capture it all, and maybe
It just
make it a bit
yeah.
more
Yeah,
uh,
it just emphasizes distance. I think when you use a wider lens, if you get very close to the subject and you got the dress very blowing into the lens in the foreground, and it
yeah.
just this creates this kind of this more drama. I think.
Mm. And whereas
So
longer lenses is the compression makes things feel, I want to say, a
yeah,
little bit more lifelike, which is not a bad thing in its own way. I
no,
mean, they can be
yeah,
powerful in its own sense, but there's something to be said about a wide lens and capturing so much more information to an image, and
yeah,
bringing
exactly.
emphasis on things. Right. And you know, while we're still on Nina, there's this last shot here I'd love to talk about because it's just something that I would imagine being the cover of a Hollywood film or from an amazing novel with Nina, and she's got this tear pouring down her eye. And I think I would love to talk to you a little bit about the editing here because I mean, the moment you captured here is so precious. It is such a genuine thing, which I think, I don't know how much influence you had on that moment, but, you had, or you asked Derek to play his music or his
Mm,
vows. I can't remember which it was. And this is her real reaction to that. But, the way that you frame this, you've got it up close. You've kept enough information in this shot to show that there's a room. You've got the bedside table, I
mm,
think, the lamp in the
mm,
background there in the picture frame. It's all very nicely presented. But what
mm,
really stands out, and it's something what you mentioned earlier about the editing, about bringing emphasis to a certain point of the image, is that tear. That tear is glistening in the light. If
mm.
someone who's photographed a couple crying might have also run into the issue where that tear kind of gets lost. Like
Mm,
it's like a gold mine for us when we see like the bride crying and they're hugging the groom, and it's like, oh yes, this is an emotional moment. Let's get in there and capture it. But then that little tear is kind of lost. And
yeah.
here it looks like it's been the light was hitting it perfectly, or perhaps you just spent a little bit more time on it to make that the
Mm,
central part of this image. I mean, her emotion is just incredible here.
mm.
So
Yeah.
did you do a lot more with the editing? Did you focus a lot more in with this to bring that out?
So first of all, I'll start with so basically, Derek wanted to kind of surprise Nina with a song. He sang a song, a Beatles song, I think it was, and
Oh
played the
wow.
guitar. He's a very talented musician as well. So, and so he, so in the morning when I got there, I tried to before I started photographing preparations. I wanted to. I knew this moment was going to happen later, so I wanted to kind of be able to capture it in the best way possible. So and obviously light is a very important plays an important role, and so I had to find a way that Derek could play the guitar and sing, uh, in the frame, but also in the frame as well. Nina could be standing there and not see him because they hadn't seen each other yet.
I see, I see.
They had their first look after that later. So I had to kind of come up with a composition and a way to place them that would be able to kind of let this moment unfold naturally and also have a nice light. I knew the light on her face was the most important thing
Mm.
because it's mostly her reaction I'm focusing on. So I wanted to position her in a place that the light would be touching her face nicely. So yeah, I picked that spot in this room and kind of out of the frame where she's looking, and there's a window,
Mm-hmm.
obviously that's shining on her light. So I placed her there, and I placed him in the hallway, and I came up with this composition anyway. And so the way the way I guess it looks effective because the lighting is complementary. It's illuminating her face, and so you can see the tear really well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and um, yeah, and obviously as well, I will admit, in post production, this is what I mean. Is when I look at an image, I think, okay, how can I enhance this image a little bit to kind of enhance the feeling and direct the viewer's eye to what the most important thing is. So I used a little bit of the exposure brush tool on her tear,
Mm-hmm.
just like the littlest bit. Just if you go too overboard, it's going to start to not look
Look
real. But
realistic anymore.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
mm.
So just a tiny bit on her little tear there, and just to make it like I think it was hardly anything, just to make it a tiny bit brighter,
Mm-hmm.
to
But that
exaggerate that a
makes a
little bit.
difference. Those little
Yeah,
subtle adjustments can really make a
it
difference. They
does.
say,
Yeah,
when you're editing, consider it like seasoning food. You're not going to dump all
yeah.
the salt in the bowl onto
Nah,
your food because it's going to get ridiculous. Do little bits
yeah,
at a time and get it to taste, and that's something that's
yeah,
important when it
yeah.
comes to editing,
Yeah, exactly. So there's two. So to kind of get this, there's two things that came into play was the light, setting up a nice light, and also a little bit of stuff in post production as well. So, um,
Amazing.
but yeah, it was a really really nice moment. It was
Now, the whole
I got really
story of them is just amazing. Like, I'll also put a link to that as well, so people can also go and check that out because your storytelling
yeah
of their day and their elopement is also out of this world. So, really,
yeah.
much talent coming from you guys.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Now, while we're here, Dylan, we did ask the community if they have any questions for you, and a lot of people did jump in, and everyone wants to get to know about Dylan and Joanna from the Kitcheners. And so I've picked out three main questions here that seems to be following the same thing. And if you would be up for it, would love it if you could just answer.
Yeah,
Feel free to
absolutely, yeah.
be relatively quick, or
Yeah,
however
no
you like.
worries.
But the first question here is, how do you talk to your couples to get them in their emotional states? Which I think is a very good question. So when you meet them,
Yeah.
what is it that you're doing or allowing them to do to become emotional?
So for me, I think the most important thing is to. It's not really so much what I'm saying during the shoot. It's kind of what I'm doing before the shoot to kind of get them comfortable and to get them in that kind of that state, I guess. So I never just kind of just jump straight into a shoot, whether it's an elopement day or a wedding day. I never jump straight into the shoot and just start, say, you guys, just start cuddling or kissing, and I never just throw them in the deep end. I always kind of start off, just chatting basically. I just talk a lot with my couples about everyday things, I don't know, whatever happening on the day, or their life or whatever, and especially with elopement days, you got more time to kind of talk with the couple, and you get to know each other, and they start to feel very comfortable around you, and so I definitely don't want my couples to feel intimidated or uncomfortable. So I just I'm just on the wedding day and on the elopement day, I'm just more of just a mate, really. Just kind of just feel like we've known each other for a long time. That's kind of what I'm trying to do with my couples. So that gets them in a mood where they trust me, they feel comfortable. They see the shoots aren't stressful at all. It's just a lot of fun, really. It looks all dramatic sometimes, and dramatic kisses and stuff, and wind blowing, but it's really just fun. I try to keep it fun for my couples. So yeah. So what was the question? What do I
Yeah,
say?
how do you talk to your couples?
When I
So
talk, yeah. So yeah, I think the most important thing is, as I said, getting them comfortable, and then during the shoot, I'm just as I said earlier, I'm kind of I get really excited when I'm shooting usually, and I'm totally kind of focused on the couple and in the zone, looking through my camera, and I don't really know what's going on around me, and um, I'm just excited, very energetic, very as just very talking very positively, and usually I find my composition, I put the couple in the middle, and I'll say to them, okay guys, now all I want you to do is just be really close together, and we can just sit on this rock here or stand over here, really close together, guys, and just have a cuddle, just hold each other really tight and have a cuddle, and
and then will you throw in some sort of like micro ideas and things? So maybe asking them to move their hand a little bit here, and maybe to go in for a kiss or a gentle nose rub or something.
Yeah. So I'm very conscious of that once they're doing that, I'm very conscious of what's going on through my camera. I'm watching everything, composition, watching what their hands are doing all the time. So I think being very conscious of what couples' hands are doing is very important. So if I see someone has their hand in their pocket or whatever, I might suggest maybe it'd be nice, maybe you could just get your right hand and just touch his or her face, or place it behind here or on the face, and so I'm giving little kind of little prompts sometimes, just little suggestions that they can maybe be doing while they're having a cuddle or a kiss, and then sometimes I'll say, guys, now just just do whatever you want for a bit. There's no rules. Just do whatever.
That's cool.
And and just let them and sometimes that's when you get some really nice natural stuff when they just they just start talking and laughing or whatever. So they're not really being directed and posed at all. They're just kind of just free to do whatever they want. And usually when they're comfortable and they feel pretty confident, they feel like they can do.
They feel safe to express themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's kind of cool, because it also kind of leads to another question that we were asked, was, do you bring music to your shoots? Are you playing music? Music being quite important as well to dictate their feelings. We talked about that with filmmaking, but have you ever, or do you ever bring music to your shoots to help get them into these moments?
I don't think I do. Yeah, sometimes I do. If it's especially for the video stuff, like if the couple is doing something in the apartment or wherever they're staying, doing some stuff together. I'll bring a Bluetooth speaker and put some. They can pick some music themselves and put it on Spotify and have that playing because I just think it makes things more relaxed and just less. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It kind of relaxes everybody a bit. I think when there's some music playing.
Yeah. And it
Yeah,
fills up
sometimes.
silences. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not all just kind of quiet.
Mm.
So yeah, definitely. Sometimes I do, especially for video, and sometimes for photos too. Uh, there's been a handful of times that I've done it. Yeah,
Amazing.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Very cool. Now, the last one there was asked about equipment. So, what would you say is your absolute favorite piece of equipment? The one that you couldn't go to a shoot without? It can be a camera, a lens, a filter, it can be
Hmm.
even a Bluetooth speaker. What would you say
Yeah.
is your absolute favorite piece of equipment?
So it's what it is. It's a lens. I don't take it to every shoot.
Okay.
I don't take it to so what it is, it's an 85. I've got it here actually. It's the Nikon 85 millimeter um, uh, 1.4D,
Mm-hmm.
and it was made in I think like 1990 or something, 1991, and it's
Oh.
actually the first lens I ever like. It's one of these big old school kind of heavy metal
Mm-hmm.
lenses. It's like built like a brick. But yeah, it's one of the first lenses I ever bought actually before weddings. It was one of the first lenses I ever got, and basically this lens, I can't trust it in every situation on the wedding day, which is why I don't use it for every wedding.
Mm-hmm.
It's mostly used for portrait shoots and sometimes elopements. Because you can't really rely on the autofocus. It's a bit kind of like, it makes all these really loud
Mm-hmm.
noises and it's very slow and it's an old lens. But the colors that come from it, and it's quite notorious it's quite famous for its actual its rendering of colors and
Mm-hmm.
its and contrast as well. So the picture you get from it is just it's beautiful. It's a beautiful portrait lens. This 85
Amazing.
millimeter. So and when taking a wedding and when I'm not using this 85, I'm using my 85 millimeter 1.8G, which is the newer one that Nikon makes, the new plastic ones. It's night and day with the difference in colors. You can
Mm-hmm.
really notice it. It's not something you can. I don't know. It's hard to put your finger on what it is, but you look at the same image, with both lenses, and this one just hands down is just it wins. It's just
It's
the images.
amazing that
Yeah,
it's for such an old
it's
lens that it
beautiful.
holds up so long. Do you
Yeah.
have to have an adapter to get this to fit your current modern body, or is it the
No.
same amount since the
No,
beginning?
no, it's what do you call it? F mount for
Hmm.
Nikon, which because I'm still using at the moment. I've got a mirrorless, the Nikon Z6, but I'm using the D780s,
Hmm.
and that just goes straight onto them because it's F mount. So the old DSLRs. So no, I don't need any adapters or anything.
Okay.
But I'm gonna switch to Canon
I heard
this year.
about that.
So
I saw somewhere. I think you're
so
posting in your story. So welcome to the dark side.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I won't be able to use this lens anymore,
Oh, shame. But I
unfortunately.
think you can get some Chinese mounts and adapters that you could make Nikon lenses
Yeah,
work. There. I mean, they might not work the same as they did
nah,
straight,
maybe.
but
Yeah,
okay.
maybe not. But because I know this lens actually, this lens, the D range, this really old school range, they don't actually work on the new Nikon mirrorless. You
I
can't use
see.
the autofocus doesn't work. It's just manual focus. So
Mm.
might be the same with the Canons too, I suppose, the new mirrorless ones. But yeah, so I won't be able to use this anymore. But that's my favorite lens ever. So.
Cool. I mean, you dropped us with this bombshell about moving to Canon. Can I ask you why you're leaving Nikon and going to Canon?
I love Nikon. I love them. Always have. I love the colors. I just know their menus and their system, and it's
Mm-hmm.
just second nature to me. Because I've used them since the very beginning. So it was a mixture of. On the one hand, I just want to. I'm at a stage where I just really want to try something new. I
Mm-hmm.
want to learn a new system and learn the quirks and the pros and cons of a new camera system and embrace that. So that's kind of why I'm switching. And also, at the moment, you just can't argue with the autofocus tremendous capabilities of the new kind of R5 and the R3. You know what they can produce. So the autofocus on them is just fantastic. So that's another reason. They're the two main reasons. Yeah. So
Gotcha.
it's yeah.
Oh,
So.
exciting. I mean, it's always nice to have a new toy to play with, a new camera to explore and get to know its quirks, as you've said. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, we're looking forward to seeing what you create with this, Dylan.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. Well, that about wraps it up for us today, Dylan. I just want to say thank you so very, very much for your time, for sharing so much information with us. It's just been an absolute pleasure and an honor to be able to speak to you again. I remember the first time I spoke to you when I was onboarding you for HIST. I couldn't get over how nice you were. Everyone I've ever spoken to since, I keep telling them how nice Dylan is and how humble he is and how, talented he is at the same time. So it's really been a pleasure.
You're a nice guy too, Shane. Really nice to chat to you, and I really congratulations on HIST. It's fantastic. It's such an incredible platform and very great educational resources, and it's definitely I'm really glad to be part of it. So
yeah, we're so lucky to have you there, and we love all of them. And it's not the last time we're going to see your work there. Hopefully, I'm sure we're going to be reaching out to you to grab a whole bunch more, because again, there's just so much to learn from you. So, Dylan, again, thank you so much for everything. And send our best to Joanna and to the kids. And
will do.
We'll definitely stay in touch.
Absolutely. Thanks, Shane.
Pleasure, my man. Well, there you have it, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. It's been such a pleasure having Dylan on this video cast. Now, just remember, if you are considering joining How I Shot This, be sure to use his discount code, which is TK25, which will knock off 25% on the first payment for any subscription plan. This is just another way that we support our artists, so if you do sign up through that code, he will earn a little bit of a commission for that, and that's all it does. All the show notes are linked below. I really, really hope you enjoyed this one, and we can't wait to see you in the next one. Stay awesome, guys.